Hello，大家好，我是老唐。今天是加拿大萨省时间2023年6月16号。每天阅读10分钟，好习惯养成。今天是我们继续阅读的第144天。接着阅读《Grow Rich with Peace of Mind》这本英文书的第4章。When you're free of fear, you're free to live. Free yourself of fear, and you free yourself of a man-made devil. 7 major fears reinforce each other. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of loss of liberty, the fear of old age, the fear of death, poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, loss of liberty, old age, death. Separate your self-made fears from the fears which are necessary for self-preservation. Make way for self-confident faith in yourself, the indispensable ingredient of a life worth living. When you fear something, that thing is more likely to find you and harm you. When you look a threat in the eye and know you're going to overcome it, that is when great powers come to your aid. Fear, the most powerful of negative motives, is like prayer in reverse. Instead of appealing to the constructive forces which surround us, it appeals to the forces of destruction. It becomes a god in itself, demanding endless painful sacrifices. People rarely will admit that lives of bitter privation may be founded on the nothing more than constant fear, and yet you can see it happen all around you. The first fear I shall mention is a terribly magnetic fear. The more of it you have, the more you're likely to attract. The first one, the fear of poverty. Now and again, I have had occasion to meet people I knew in my own poverty-stricken youth. Of late, I have been meeting their own grown children. When I have known both parent and child, I often can trace the persistence of a kind of family foundations of poverty. Fearing poverty with good reason as it ground them down, hating it and protesting it. Such families have nevertheless allowed their negative emotions to dull their weight and cancel their courage. In the great, in the greatest nation in the world, a nation that fairly throbs with opportunity, they settle down to live in want. Some member of the family may make some gesture toward lifting himself out of his rut, but it always turns out to be a feeble gesture that lacks follow through. Perhaps it solves his confidence to have the gesture to point for the rest of his life. Worse yet, whole families are brought up in the belief that God intended them to be poor. Surely it must be the final taste of fear which equates the idea of God with the idea of persecution. To be poor and not to like being poor is a good step toward becoming rich. But put aside your fear of poverty, see it rather as merely that point from which you take off. Let your intimate knowledge of the unwanted condition become a sustaining force as you drive toward the condition you want, prosperity, even opulence. Let your present necessity for pinching pennies make you aware of the power of money. Let your lack of capital make you aware of the many ways you can make use of other people's money merely by paying them a fair fee for their money's hair. Know that much education is free, that self-education in some views can be better than school education. The vast stores of information may be used free. Let in industry and chase them with open arms to receive the willing worker. Know that our economy is so vast and various that any special talent can find the piece where it is needed. And our economy is filled with unmet needs which you can meet. I forbear from giving you a list of many well-known men who began their lives in poverty. We've met many of them and shall meet others, cast our fear of poverty and drive ahead. The second one, the fear of criticism. Your man has limitless power to make a dream come true, provided you allow your mind to work unhampered. Few fears hamper a mind so quickly as the fear of criticism. It can stop you before you get started, and yet it is nothing but influence of another mind or other minds. An active influence which often is only imagined. Person who is filled with fear of criticism often will not put forth his ideas lest he be rebuffed. And so he loses his great gifts of imagination and self-reliance. We may examine the careers of minds who achieved mighty breakthroughs in the fields, and we may marvel at the way in which they found their abilities and put them to effective use. At the same time, we may see many of the obstacles they had to overcome. Rarely, however, do we know of the adverse criticism many such men faced. Had they feared this criticism and let it take root in their minds, all their ability to conceive and achieve would have been crippled. Indeed, they never might have felt it, for their minds would not have been free minds that drive ahead. The automobile, of course, would not work, nor would airplane, nor would space travel. By the time Henry Ford was ready to manufacture automobiles on a mass production basis, the automobile obviously worked. Mass reproduction of such shaky devices was sneered at. They were a laboratory curiosity. Nobody could supply the gasoline necessary, nor the rubber, nor ensure that such necessities would be available to a motorist wherever he met travel. Furthermore, said the bankers with whom Henry Ford preferred not to do business, people simply would not buy such a high-priced gadget in sufficient quantities. Almost everyone who knew of Ford's plans condemned them on one ground or another. Surely the sustaining power of love helped Ford to know his own mind, for Mrs. Ford said simply, "Go ahead, no matter who criticizes." More recently, a man named Henry Land took a photograph of his young daughter. She wanted to see the picture right away. He explained that first, the roll of photographic paper must be taken out of the camera and developed in a dark room by means of certain chemicals. Once the negatives were obtained, they had to be printed by intense light upon another kind of paper, which in its turn needed chemical treatment. And so, at length, would appear. At this point, his unhampered mind took hold. When I built a camera which produced finished pictures, anyone who knew anything about photography could have given him a dozen reasons why not. But criticism did not stay the development of the lined Polaroid camera, which does exactly what young Miss Land requested. Criticism cripples as well in the realm of pure ideas. When I set out to organize the science of personal achievement, I was almost snowed under the criticism heaped upon my head. Most of the criticism came from my nearest relatives, and this is hard to take. I could not then have put in words the power that kept me going, but I had my mind upon my goal, not upon obstacles, and I kept going. This first practical science of personal achievement has earned more money for its users than was contained in Andrew Carnegie's entire fortune, and he was very likely the world's richest man. It is one thing to listen to advice from a person qualified to give advice. It is quite another to follow Edwards' criticism to blunt the fine edge of your own conquering mind. Notice how much of such criticism comes from people who criticize everything, in particular from people who criticize everybody who tries to succeed. Failure, like other forms of misery, loves company, casts out fear of criticism and drive ahead. The third, the fear of ill health. Probably you know more than one person whose main topic of conversation is health, or rather, ill health. Such people would rather describe their operations than talk of the benefit they derived. If indeed they needed the operations in the first place, they start each day by searching for symptoms, first from the hair on and then from the tones up. And will find many a sure sign of illness with which to warn their friends. They buy every quick remedy that comes along, follow every health fad 1 year, which turns out to be an anti-health fad the next year. Their hypochondriac drugs, 这么长单词. They imagine illness, fear illness, and literally bring illness upon themselves. For such is the negative power of the mind. In my 60 odd years of adulthood, I've been gratified to see that physicians give increasing attention to psychosomatic, psychosomatic illness or bodily illness which originates in the mind. Since man's earliest history, however, it has been obvious that almost all of our illness is caused by unpeace of mind. Here's a very partial list of symptoms which can arise from mental conflicts, fears, and tensions. Headache, indigestion, kidney trouble, and more and more. And there are many mental disorders ranging from extreme nervous tension to outright insanity, which often are caused or aggravated, aggravated by the mind, which fights itself. The list of ills to which body and mind may yield is almost endless. So let your first step toward good health be this. Do not dwell upon the image of illness. The mind tends to transmute all beliefs into their physical equivalent. Why then see yourself as anything but a person who enjoys good sound health from top to toe and back again? Even if you do, even if you do contract some illness or injury, hold to the peaceful knowledge that is merely an adverse incident of life, which of course you will overcome. Moreover, a mind filled with faith and confidence can better see beyond the disability to heal the condition, the yes condition. And this, above all, is a healing aid which cannot be supplied by medicine. It is conceived, and therefore it is boundlessly powerful. Faith is the greatest of all healers. Faith is the great universal medicine which prevents illness, cures illness, builds a resistance to further illness, heals and sustains. Have faith in your health, and it is as though ill health starves to death for lack of food. Keep ill health out of your conversation. Keep ill health out of your mind. Reflect your faith in the image of a prince of some physical health, and that prince stands by almost invincible. Then to prove conclusively that you have stopped believing in ill health, empty your medicine closet down the drain. Cast out fear of ill health and drive ahead. Number four, fear the loss of love. Love walks hand in hand with peace of mind. A couple who truly love one another, often reflect their love upon the world like a beacon of happiness. They belong to each other, we say, and in many ways they do. Just look beyond the trite statement and you will see that belonging is not the same as selfishly possessing. One who really loves another does not hold his mate in chains of jealous jealousy, for this is a fear of the loss of love. True love knows no fear. Moreover, love cannot be demanded, it must be given. Should it cease to be given, it no longer exists. The end of love is not pleasant. No adverse circumstance is pleasant when it occurs. Yet to fear it in advance, as so many do, is as damaging as to imagine oneself dead in advance of dying. A particular person's love may be lost, but love itself never is lost. The capacity for love beats within the heart. It seeks another, and love for one person always can be transmuted into love for another. Note that there is another. Note too that love also transmutes itself into great achievement and great service. Charles Dickens' first love almost ended in tragedy when he found it was not reciprocated. He transmuted his love into his writing, and his most popular book David Copperfield, arose from a heart which seemed to be broken. Love generously, love truly, love fully, love faithfully. Love is a great power for good when you get it, but love can destroy you when it gets you. Do you think I'm cynical in taking this of the most sublime of all emotions? No, I'm following the purpose of the book and showing you the lessons of life itself. Any fear holds you back and hurts you. Cast your fear of loss of love and drive ahead. Fifth, fear of loss of liberty. I read recently about a man who had served a term in prison and had been released. He had difficulty in finding a job, for he was honest enough to say he was an ex-convict. He was for a time unable to come home to his family, for they mistrusted him. Within himself, however, he knew he was a changed man, and with quiet persistence, he has won back a place in the world of honest people. He expressed his thankfulness at having regained the privileges of working for a living, of planning a career, and having a family and home. But all these blessings have their foundation in greater blessing. He said, I have my liberty. Millions have learned that what happens when an entire nation loses its liberty. The necessities of life may all be present, and many of the luxuries, but without the liberty to speak one's mind and live one's own life, all the rest seems a mockery. I recall a group of Mayan women who crossed the ocean in a tiny, unseaworthy boat and nearly drowned several times in order to win their way to our land of liberty. This sailing craft began its voyage with two masts, and at one port of call, they sold one mast in order to buy provisions, yet still they struggled onward to find liberty. And I know of many who have given up so much liberty of body and mind, and they might as well be in prison or living under a dictator. Also, I know many others who so constantly fear a loss of liberty that the fear itself becomes fetter on their souls, as is the case with fear of any kind. When I speak of freedom of mind and body, I speak of basic personal freedom. It is not a physically absolute freedom. If each of us were absolutely free to do so, to do whatever he wanted to do, and we would have chaos instead of civilization. Peace of mind includes going along with the laws and customs in our times and our society. It also includes a balanced view toward any temporary loss of freedom. A little while ago, I suffered temporary loss of liberty to get about as a wish. A large case of influenza sneaked past my prince of sound physical health and sent me to bed for 3 days. I could have fretted about the appointments I had to cancel, but if I had, my mind would have lost its liberty. Instead, I devoted the time to peacefully and restfully outlining this book. That had been a task which I had been getting around to for a long time. Once again, I proved the soundness of the principle that every university carries within it the seed of an equivalent of greater benefit. The concept of time is closely aligned to the concept of freedom. Time is wealth, and unlike money, when it is gone, you cannot replace it. I knew a man who arrives promptly for an appointment only to be kept waiting, or who is stuck in a traffic jam, gets into a stroll over this infringement of his right to spend his time as he wishes to spend it. I have pointed out to salesmen that time spent in an anteroom can be time spent in reviewing one's sales pointers, and thus be the better prepared for selling. Or in many cases, the time may be spent in observing and listening so that one gathers useful information about customers' needs. For salesman or anyone else, enforced waiting time can be transmuted into a time of felt relaxation, which restores the strength of mind and body. Even a driver in a traffic jam can keep his mind peaceful and thoughtful, and it is often on such occasions, well, one's alert but not heavily concentrating, but that subconscious mind feeds back the answers to questions and problems which may have lain within it a long time. Peace of mind is many splendid thing, not connected with the statements you read a moment ago. Time is wealth, and unlike money, when it's gone, you cannot replace it. Peace of mind is so beneficial to your entire well-being forever that it is almost certain to extend your life and to help you keep active and productive far into your later years, so that lost time can be, for science, be replaced, and at a most valuable period. Liberty includes peace of mind. Peace of mind is basic liberty. We have too many slaves to the clock, too many slaves to the bank book, too many slaves to convention and to self-consciousness. Before you say I'm free, see if you answer yes to these questions. When circumstances require me to use my time in a way I did not plan to use it, do I, in that time, know my own mind and use it beneficially? Have I set up my work schedule so that I need not live in fear of work overwhelming me and stealing my hours of rest? When I find a way to express myself, I know it is socially acceptable. Do I continue to express myself in that manner even though others may think it's strange? Have I freed myself of any family or regional or cultural custom which has hampered my career or my personal life? Am I willing to question the ways in which other people do things and never make an absolute get out of that's the way it is done? Do I realize I'm not working for money but for that which money can buy? If you honestly answer yes to all these questions, you are essentially a free person and you do not fear the loss of freedom. You know that freedom cannot be taken away from the soul. Notice the last question, especially when I became aware of the drafts which enable mine to make great fortunes. I also became aware that some rich men do not have peace of mind. Appreciation of money is far cry from the worship of money, which in the end destroys happiness. Remember, this book shows you how to grow rich and have peace of mind. Liberty extends in many directions. Those who fear slavery are the ones who have made themselves slaves, for they have conditioned themselves to it and they know how defenseless they have become, past our fear of loss of liberty and the drive ahead. Sixth, fear of old age. I used to be a good amateur shortstop, once a month of 75, and now I could not stop a grounder that was rolling more than 1 mile an hour. Such remarks are typical of those who fear old age and so cannot know peace of mind in the years which should be most rewarding. Old age is a handicap, yes, only in connection with certain types of physical motion. Nature never takes away anything without replacing it with something of equal potential value. When nature takes away youth, she replaces it with wisdom. It is impossible for a young person to possess the accumulated wisdom and experience of person of real age. Think that over before you say old age is a drawback. It is pathetic to see people assume extra handicaps because they're past 40 or past 50 or even past 70. When these handicaps exist only in their own minds, they show an inferiority complex, allow younger people's thinking to overwhelm their own mature and experienced fact thinking. They apologize for being old, as though living past the youth were a disgrace. They do not expect to feel the impulses of initiative, imagination, and self-reliance, and so, of course, they don't feel these so-called youthful qualities. They act as though losing youth's springy muscles must mean you lose the power inside your head. This is so only if you wish it, only if you fear old age. Recently, I set up an entirely new series of schools in several cities where men of all ages can learn the art of positive thinking and how to use it to achieve success. Is it odd that a mind of my age should embark upon such an enterprise? Only to a fearful, hampered mind is it odd. We are reaching in direction I can hire younger, more active mind to do the legwork. In fact, I can do a better job of such direction than I could have done 40 years ago. I have that much more experience. Also, I have peace of mind in depth, as I did not have it 40 years ago, when I did not yet completely see the forces which make mine what they are. Part of the fear of old age, with many people, stems from the feeling that an old person inevitably must miss a great deal. You cannot partake in so much that is going on. Because of this, some people of rape years attempt to masquerade, masquerade as youths and so and only succeed in being ridiculous. It is not necessary to partake physically of the entire world around you so long as you keep in touch with that world. Every few years, we see an advance in the means of communication so that the affairs of all the world can be brought into the living room. Surely the neighbors of my youth would have been less ignorant and superstitious if they had had today's opportunities to know what's going on. To keep yourself in tune with youthful states of mind, however, I invite you to make use of a procedure I found very useful. Every year I subtract 1 year at the time of my birthday. Now I pay particular attention to the aspects of the world which appeal to a person of that age. I'm now back in my late 20s, renewing my acquaintance with my state of mind in that era, and also with much that is unique with the present late 20s generation. Viewing as I do from the vantage point of experience, I've dotted fine, I've doubled fine. At the same time, I gain a perspective on myself as a younger person must see me. The experience is both valuable and delightful. Look deeply into your own vast experience, refresh your deep knowledge of human nature, find and feel the positive forces which never are out of reach. Old age can be the greatest time of your life. Cast out fear of old age and drive ahead. Okay.